In the morning sun, which was penetrating through the panoramic windows of the modern office in the heart of Paris, the software solutions team of programmers was preparing for another day of coding, jokes, and endless amounts of coffee. The atmosphere was light, filled with the buzz of technology and occasional laughs, typical for a place where creativity meets code. Then the doors opened, heralding the arrival of Catherine, the newly appointed security champion of the company. Her figure stood out against the backdrop of the bustling office, a woman with a determined stride, looking confidently through subtly framed glasses. She held a laptop in her hand, as if it were a knight's shield, ready to defend the digital kingdoms against invisible threats. Catherine was greeted by the technical director, who enthusiastically introduced her to the team. "This is Catherine," he announced, "our latest defense for our IT infrastructure. She will be our shield in a world full of cyber threats." The programmers, momentarily diverting their gaze from their screens, nodded their heads with interest, exchanging glances and smiles among themselves. After a brief introduction, Catherine got a moment to say something about herself. Her voice was calm but authoritative. "My first task is to review our IT infrastructure," as she began, looking at the team with her penetrating gaze. "I want to understand our processes, identify potential security gaps, and propose solutions. We will work together to ensure that our software is not only innovative but also secure." The entire team, initially somewhat surprised by such a direct approach, quickly showed interest. After all, security was crucial, and the prospect of new challenges and learning under the guidance of an experienced specialist was intriguing. When the meeting came to an end, Catherine began her first task, a security review. Walking between desks, she observed the programmers at work, asking questions and making notes. A plan of action was already forming in her mind, and the team of programmers, initially a bit intimidated, began to appreciate her presence. She was like a breath of fresh air that could bring about a change they didn't know they needed. After several days of intense analysis and system review, Catherine came across something alarming. Deep within the test server, like a silent witness to an oversight, lay a publicly accessible .git directory. It was an error, minor in its nature, but gigantic in potential consequences. Catherine, feeling a mix of unease and determination, immediately contacted the DevOps team. The atmosphere in the server room was tense. The administrators, surprised by Catherine's discovery, sprang into action. Their fingers glided over the keyboards like those of skilled pianists, and commands flickered across the screens. Within a few hours, the vulnerability was fixed and access controls were changed. The entire software solutions team felt a sense of relief, but also a growing understanding that security was something that required constant vigilance. A few days later, Catherine organized a training session for the programmers. In the spacious conference room, with a view of the city, the programmers gathered to listen to her tips. Catherine, using a projector, presented slides that illustrated key security principles and good programming practices. Her lecture was clear, full of examples and anecdotes that captivated the listeners' imaginations. Security is not just about the rules we follow, but also the mindset we should cultivate, as Catherine said. Every line of code you write could be a potential attack vector for an intruder. We must be vigilant and always remember the consequences of our actions. The programmers listened with interest, and some of them began to ask questions, transforming the training into an interactive discussion. The atmosphere was a mix of curiosity, mild surprise, and even self-critique. Ultimately, everyone understood that security was a shared responsibility and that each of them had a key role to play. During the training, after discussing the basic principles of security, Catherine moved on to a more advanced topic, the method by which hackers could likely have downloaded our repository if not for our swift response. At that time, she was still unaware. On the large screen, slides appeared with examples of penetration testing tools. Understanding the tools of the adversary is key to better defense, as Catherine began, moving to the first tool, Git Dumper. This tool allows for the downloading of the contents of a .git directory if it's publicly accessible. It was through such a vulnerability that our repository could have been compromised. On the screen, she showed step-by-step how Git Dumper could be used to download the entire .git directory from a publicly accessible URL. Then she focused on the second tool, Repo Security Scanner. This repository scanner is a command-line tool that helps in detecting sensitive data that may have been accidentally pushed to a GitHub repository. She explained how this tool scans the repository for passwords, private keys, usernames, tokens, and other confidential data. Using an example, she demonstrated how the scanner can be used to identify and prevent information leaks. By using these tools, we can better understand how our work can be used against us and how we can prevent it, Catherine continued, emphasizing the importance of regular audits and monitoring of code. It's not just about protecting our data, but also about safeguarding our reputation and the trust of our clients. The programmers, watching the demo, became acutely aware of the real threats. Many of the meeting participants were surprised by the simplicity with which these tools could be used and how much information could have been unwittingly exposed. The training concluded with a series of questions and a discussion about further steps the team could take to enhance the security of their projects. Catherine, looking at the engaged faces of the programmers, knew that she had achieved her goal. She had not only imparted knowledge but also instilled an awareness of the importance of security in their daily work. This was the first of many training sessions, but she could already discern a shift in the team's approach. Programmers, who had until recently focused solely on the functionalities and performance of the code, were now beginning to understand that security was equally important. At the end of the training, Catherine gathered feedback from the participants, wanting to tailor future sessions to their needs and level of understanding. She was pleased with their engagement and questions, which indicated a deeper interest in the topic. She knew that the journey to a fully secure working environment was long, but this first step had been successfully taken. The day of the application's launch was meant to be a day of triumph for software solutions. Months of hard work were finally going to be revealed to the world, and the team of programmers waited with anticipation. The office was filled with optimism, and the walls were adorned with balloons and posters celebrating the premiere. The company's management and investors had gathered to celebrate this significant moment. However, the joy and excitement quickly turned to shock and disbelief. Just a few hours before the official launch of the application, news spread online that the source code of the application had been leaked. Links to the full code repository appeared on popular programming forums and technology websites. Catherine, having just learned about the leak from one of the programmers, immediately called the team to the conference room. The faces of all those gathered expressed a mix of astonishment and concern. The company's management, along with the investors, also arrived, demanding explanations. "We need to quickly understand how this leak occurred," Catherine said, trying to maintain her composure. "This could be more than just a forgotten .git directory. We need to check all our systems, event logs, recent activities on the repository, and all queries to the test servers." The team of programmers and DevOps immediately got to work, analyzing every possible lead. They combed through server event logs, repositories, and monitoring systems, looking for any unusual activities or data access. Catherine coordinated the efforts, while simultaneously reassuring the board and investors, who were increasingly concerned about the potential consequences of the leak. "Let's remain calm and methodically search through all the data," she said, standing before a group of anxious directors and investors. "The most important thing is that we quickly identify the source of the problem and prevent further damage." As time passed, the tension mounted. Programmers reviewed every line of code, tracing each change that might provide a clue as to how the leak occurred. The DevOps team scoured server configurations, checking for any unauthorized changes. Unfortunately, the first few hours brought more questions than answers. It was unclear whether the leak was the result of negligence, human error, or the deliberate act of an external hacker. The board and investors, though concerned, began to appreciate the team's efforts in searching for the source of the problem. Catherine, while focused on the task, couldn't help but feel that the leak could have been avoided if more attention had been paid to security aspects earlier. However, now was not the time for reflections on the past. They had to act quickly to secure what remained of their work and minimize the damage resulting from the leak. Meanwhile, social media and industry forums began to heat up with discussions about the leak. IT specialists and programmers from around the world analyzed and commented on the published code, and the company's rivals did not miss the opportunity to point out errors and shortcomings in the security, code, and algorithms of the application. In the office, despite the mounting frustration, the team continued their investigation. A breakthrough came in the late afternoon when one of the programmers, reviewing the server event logs, noticed unusual data traffic that had occurred several weeks earlier. This clue could be the key to solving the mystery of the leak. After familiarizing herself with the newly discovered information, Catherine convened a meeting with the board and investors to present the progress in the investigation. Although they still did not have a complete picture of the situation, it was beginning to become clear that the leak might have been the result of a combination of several smaller errors and oversights, which together created a pathway for a potential attack. As the evening approached, the entire software solutions team worked tirelessly to understand the full extent of the leak and develop a strategy to address it. It was a race against time to salvage what remained of their hard work and rebuild the trust that might have been lost in the eyes of customers and investors. After intensive searches and analysis, the truth finally came to light. It turned out that one of the members of the DevOps team, responsible for the test infrastructure, overwhelmed with work and unaware of the potential danger, made a mistake in the deployment script. The .git directory was not being removed from the prepared release package of the application. Furthermore, the process of deploying on the test server was conducted without proper analysis of the code for embedded access data and tokens. Static code analysis was turned off. Access to the test instance was possible from the one network for anyone. The application directory was not password protected, and instances of the application that were older than the current latest version were being shut down with several hours of delay. This oversight allowed hackers to gain access to the code. The administrator, burdened with other tasks and an overload of responsibilities, did not have time for a thorough verification of the written code. The lack of a code review and approval process by another person in the DevOps team also contributed to this negligence. Understanding this was painful but at the same time constituted an important lesson for the entire company. Catherine, along with her team, developed a remedial plan. The first step was to conduct additional, more intensive security training for the entire team of programmers and DevOps security-aware developer. These trainings focused not only on the technical aspects of security, but also on work culture and risk awareness in every aspect of software development. The company's board, committing to better support the IT teams, invested in additional resources and tools that enabled more effective and secure work towards building an SDLC, software development lifecycle, process. Regular security reviews and audits were also initiated, including external penetration tests, to ensure that similar errors would not be repeated. Investors, initially dissatisfied with the situation, gradually began to appreciate the company's transparency and determination to improve. Open communication and visible efforts put into solving the problem helped rebuild trust. Finally, after many months of hard work, the company released a new secure version of the application. It was a moment of triumph, but also a time for reflection on the importance of security in the world of technology. The launch of the new version proved to be a success both technically and in the market, restoring the company's good reputation. The story concludes with a scene where the team, along with Catherine, watches the download numbers of the new application rise on the screen. In their eyes, there's a mix of relief and satisfaction. The work they had done was challenging, but through their collective efforts and newly acquired knowledge, they not only saved the project, but also strengthened the entire company. Catherine, looking at her colleagues, knew that this was not the end of their journey towards perfecting security. However, it was a new beginning, the start of an era where security awareness and risk management would be an integral part of their daily work. From the author, may the story of Catherine and the software solutions team serve as a cautionary tale for others in the industry, but also as proof that with the right knowledge, commitment, and resources, even the most challenging IT security obstacles can be overcome.
Thank you for listening. Visit my LinkedIn profile. And see you next time.